Today I'm going to continue to build the website for Buildspace. I think I forgot to put the chats there. Just gonna put the chats on OBS. Yeah, now, okay. So I'm gonna put the timer for 1 hour and a half. And I'm going to try to build this graph here. Try to update the website with the graph. So the issue that, like there's a bunch of different things on my mind. And it's kind of hard to decide what to do. But the issue with this one that I have so far is that I tested this with like a bunch of different nodes. And as I was expecting, like it's very shitty, the visualization. Just because like all of the nodes are on top of each other and you can't really see the labels. Like it gets very crowded, let's say. And also like you can zoom in and zoom out of the graph. So I was expecting this, but yeah. So like I'll have to figure out how to do all this stuff to change the way that the visualization is there. And maybe change the event listeners as well. So what the other thing that I like spend a bunch of time thinking and is very hard to decide is the way that the data should be. Like first, the way that I'm going to receive the data, and then second, how I'm going to translate that data. And because it's dependent on this stuff here, and that's the problem. Like I also realized that I don't need to do things like this the way that it is here. I can just do it in another way because the main fundamental thing that is happening here is that it is updating the positions of these lines through here and then memoizing them, which means just storing them, the values, so that it doesn't recalculate on every render, I think. Only when there's a change on these values here. But the fundamental thing is that it's just changing the positions of the things. So I don't need to check for the neighbors. I think what I have to do is like just loop through all of the nodes and update the positions. That's what is happening here. Then the only position that changes each time is the position of the current nodes. So that's the other thing. Like maybe I don't even need to loop through all of them. I don't understand why. I guess like the reason why you loop is because it's passing to the object there, to this to this element. So it passes the line here, which is the position. But it seems inefficient to me because there must be a way to, like, I don't know. From this code, it seems like it doesn't need to update all of the nodes positions because it just needs to update the position of the one node that is being moved. But maybe if you move two nodes at once, because the use drag is kind of bad. But that's another thing I'm gonna have to fix as well. Because obviously, if you overlap them, then it's a bad thing because then you can't separate them anymore. But I don't see the point of doing it. Like the only thing that you have to do here is just update the position of the node that is being moved, in my view. So that would be like filtering the nodes instead. You filter the nodes and then you just change the line that contains the position of the nodes that the node that is being moved. But yeah, I guess you need to update both the position of the node and the position of the node that is connected to. So that's why you have the neighbors. But it doesn't need to be to all the nodes, I think. Just for the current node that is being moved. So this is the thing that is difficult, because there's so many different ways to do it, and like when I change the data here, it's gonna change the way that I have to set this up here, so that it recalculates the lines. That's why I'm having trouble deciding like which way to go. And then obviously I'm getting the data from here on these events, on the sockets. And that's how, like, on top of that, I still have to do the code editor as well, which it looks like it's going to be very difficult. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to do it, because there, like, from the videos I've seen, it looks like you need like to create a container, and then like maybe like the only way to do it is by paying for the server. Like there's no way to do it with a free version. That's my concern. So I might have to figure out different ways to do it. So this network here just copied the functions from Pivis and translated them into JavaScript. So I think what I'm thinking about doing is just I was using this inside of this function, and this is the function that is gonna translate the data into the graph. And I was doing like this before to test. But like the reason why I decided to do the network is because it is confusing, like the whole, if I format in the way that it needs to be here, where there's each node, and then each node have the neighbors, and then the neighbors are the positions. It's kind of confusing when you're translating here. So I have the graph visualization, so I have the stack frame visualization. So I thought that it might be better to just create the graph and then change this stuff to figure out how to adapt with the graph. So this is it's gonna have nodes and edges, and I'm adding them this way here. I think the position has to be when I create the node, so I just put this here now, because it has to be a part of each node. And then this also has a method for getting the data in the correct format, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use this. So this returns exactly the data that is necessary, which is just a dictionary with node IDs, and then the node IDs have the value as the neighbors, I think. So I could use this one here, but I'm thinking it's better to just create a different one. Just modify this code here so that I can pass a different data. And the problem is that I'm gonna have to, that's the other thing that I did. I created this other context here because I realized that it's better and easier to just create the context and update the context here. And then I'm also passing as a child, I think, here. But maybe I don't need to pass as a child, because I'm not using this anymore. The thing is that there's a bunch of things to test, and I think right now it's not working anymore because I changed something. So maybe I should go back to doing yeah, because I changed this thing here. Maybe I should go back to doing this just to see. But I think this way that I was doing, the event listers don't work. That's the problem. And it looks like it's not working now as well. Or because I comment something out. Oh, it's because I don't have the data socket, the WebSocket connection. Did I put the timer? Yeah. So now maybe, yeah, okay. But you see, like here, the event listeners are all wrong. And then if I move, the lines are also wrong. And then this is another problem, is like, if you click here, it puts all the nodes into one thing. So it's obviously all wrong. And I think it must be because of the way that I'm doing this stuff here. And this is the problem, is like the data structure. But then if I change here, it becomes an issue, because then I have to change here as well. Maybe I should remove this stuff first and see if it's gonna work if I don't have this stuff, because now I'm doing through the context. It's still same thing. Yeah, so this is much better because it's easier. Like, there's something weird that happens with it's like when you use two use effects on two different components to render the data, I think it's like tricky to make it work because of the way that the Next.js renders the pages, the components. Because it renders on the server side and then it renders again on the client side through the stuff on the use effect. So in the first time that it's rendering, it doesn't pass any data, I think. And then in the second time, like, the data is set here, but then it didn't work on the child components. Because I think I was using, like, on the child components, I was setting the data through the use effect as well. So I think, and I did on the other way where I just passed the data directly instead of setting on the use effect, and then it works. But then, like, there's other problems with the, like, the structure of the thing. It's just not very good, I think. It's much easier to, much better, I think, to just create this context and then update the context instead. But then, like, the issue is that's more stuff to think about, because when I change one thing, then I have to change everything else. Yeah, so I think now I have to think about what is the best way to return the data here. I think I just put g dots get edges. Like, the nodes are gonna be a list of dictionaries, and the edges are gonna be a list of dictionaries as well. But then I have to think about how I'm gonna make it on the other graph. So I think first, let me just do the basic stuff first. Then I worry about how I'm gonna change the calculation on the other component. You can also use this function as well though, and then just leave the other components the way that it is. But I think that it's probably not the best way, because the thing is, I want to find, like, obviously I want to find a way that you updates everything without having to, like, doing as little or as few computation as possible, let's say. So I don't want to, like, every time you move a node to calculate everything that happens, like, on the entire graph, if I can avoid that. I only want to calculate the things that are necessary to update the state of the graph, and that's what makes it hard. And then I think I don't need this node cache, that's the thing. Maybe I should just change the name to node edges. I'm thinking... I think only with the nodes that I can't update though, because like, I need to know the connections between them. So I guess it's gonna be very similar though, where I loop over all the nodes, and then based on the nodes I get the edges, the position based on the edges. Like, check to see what nodes are connected to the current one. The problem is that I think it's gonna be inefficient. Like, which one is more efficient? To do the filtering there, or to do the filtering here? To just get the data from this function? Like, the thing that makes it difficult is that, like, it is bigger than, like, what I'm focusing now. Like, it is, like, how you're gonna scale this. Like, if you're thinking about the whole system and how everything's gonna go together, how do you make the decision that, like, it's gonna be better to scale the whole system later on? Because if I build things on top of this thing, then maybe there's another data format and another visualization that I want to do in the future, and then it just breaks everything down because I'm relying, like, on this format. So I think that if I use this function, it's less flexible, but it's easier to do it now with this function. But if I do it with nodes and edges, it might be more computationally intensive because I have to do more calculations here. Because for each node, I'm gonna have to maybe filter the nodes again based on the edges, and then based on that, update the positions. And so that's like an extra loop, I think. But maybe it's the exact same as here. It's just looping here, and then through here, instead of a map, we use a filter to filter based on the... And the problem is that the edges are going to be a list of, so it might be another loop. The edges are going to be a list of objects as well. I should get it working first, and then I'll think about this. And the thing, like, the problem is that even after I do all of this stuff, I'm still gonna have to think about the visualization thing. Because I'm thinking that 3JS is not gonna be good enough to do this stuff. So I was researching as well, and I found a different library that incorporates VJS in React. But the issue is that I tested that library and it seems like it's not working on Next.js. And the problem is because of the server-side rendering, I think. And then I decided, like, I kind of gave up on that idea, because then I'm gonna have to study the other libraries. So, like, I think it, like, the opportunity cost doesn't make sense to invest time on studying, because then it's better if I just continue from the place that I was doing from the other visualization where I'm just using VGS. Like the modificated version of VGS that I did. Then here it would be a list as well, stat. I think I'm gonna do it like this first and then I'll think about it. There's too many things to think about. So first, like, make the visualization work with this data structure here, then I'll think about the rest. Let's see. There was a command that allows you to replace. I think it's... I forgot how to do it though. Ask ChatGPT and then search on DuckDuckGo. Doesn't work. What is the commands? It's Control Shift Alt R. Control Shift F. See if it works. Yeah, but then it's gonna replace on all the files. It's obviously not what I want. Maybe confusing PyCharm with VS Code. Because I think in PyCharm is Control Shift R or something like that.
Se você quiser, eu vou te dar amor desses de cinema. Não vai te faltar carinho, plano, assunto ao longo do dia. Se você quiser, eu largo tudo, vou pro mundo com você, meu bem. Nessa nossa estrada só terá belas praias e cachoeiras.
Clocks with an arrow pointing to the right. Yeah, I don't see that. Maybe it's this. Oh, here it is. Okay, so how to put the word there? Let's try that again. I think I got it now. But now it's not showing there.
nossa felicidade. Vamos brindar a vida, meu bem, aonde o vento é brisa e o céu claro de estrelas. O que a gente precisa é tomar um banho de chuva, um banho de chuva. Ai, 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 ai. Ai, 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 ai.
There we go. And here I think I can delete this stuff as well. I think here, yeah, that's the way that I was thinking about. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I used this on VS Codes on the when I was doing the blog to replace the points or some special characters in the privacy policy page. Yeah, this one is much easier. Now let's think about how to change this. Now first I think I have to see if I'm receiving the correct thing. Hey, Cardi talks. It looks like it is. It is correct. In front show. Yeah, this is the edges. So the part that I think is gonna be hard is deciding how to do the positions there. This is also something that's like it was concerning me, and I don't, because it's very confusing to think about, but the names of the nodes, because there might be situations where you have like, and this is the confusing part, because the way that I was building the graphs before, I didn't have to think about this stuff because I was just using the libraries. So just focusing more on the visualization, because I wanted to understand, like I wanted to build the visualization in a way that I could understand, like, and debug the function. So like it didn't matter to me like how the nodes were working and the edges, as long as the visualization was working in the way that I wanted. But now like I'm not really sure, because let's say I have a situation where I have two nodes that have the same ID, then like, is that like on that situation, am I gonna want to have the same, for the same stuff to happen in this situation that I have nodes that are all different? So there's one possible situation where all nodes are different, then another that some of the nodes are the same, like the ID is the same. So do I want to enforce all the nodes to be different all the time, or do in some situations like it's okay for them to be the same, but then like what happens in the visualization, like do I make separate nodes with the same ID? That's the kind of stuff that is very hard to think about, because the reason why it's hard is because it involves all of the like the stuff that I'm trying to get at, which is the visualization, which is the stack frames in Python, and then like all of the potential things that like I can do later. So it's really difficult to think about what is the best way to do it, and also to know if it's working or not. Because I think that the reason why it wasn't working on the previous way that I had there, it might be because of this, because some of the nodes have the same ID. So when I'm using the use drag here, it doesn't work. I think that's the thing that made me think about this. When I'm using this stuff here. Okay, so let's think. So the data is probably correct, the way that I'm getting this stuff. So I'm getting the edges and the nodes. So set here, and then how do I do the calculation there? So I have each node's gonna have the position. Color the label position. I forgot to put a name. I can just change to label. I'm gonna do that. The thing I have to change is this one. Let's see. Label ID position. Yeah, so I have those things in the nodes. The nodes are gonna be... So I think the nodes don't change, because I was using a list of objects before as well. So let me think. Yeah, the thing that changes is the nodes cache that I was using. And these neighbors, because the nodes is not gonna have neighbors. So let me think. So I have to loop over the edges instead of the nodes. So what do the edges have? They have from and to, which are the node IDs. Yeah, that's the thing, because then now I'm gonna have to loop over the nodes again. This is the problem. Like it becomes less efficient because then I have to loop, instead of looping only through the neighbors, I have to loop through all of the nodes. Like each time, so it becomes ON square, I think. Not, I don't know how to say that in English, like to the power of 2. And before, like, even though it's looping twice, the list is smaller because it's just looping over the neighbors instead of looping over the whole graph. But then if I get the adjacency list there, which is going to be the same thing, then it might fuck up in the future. So, like, what should I do? Let me think about it. And I think that the problem is that this is kind of a big deal, but I'm not really sure. Like, this is the stuff that I'm struggling with because, like, of the way that the nights and weekends work. Like, because those problems are very important, I think. They are fundamental because of the way that the system scales. So the analogy that I have in my mind is like, let's say you're trying to build a skyscraper, let's say. And then you have 2 options of different materials you can use. One is very like robust, but it's a lot harder to work with. So it takes a lot longer in the beginning to make the foundation. The other one is not that, it's not really hard, it's very easy to build with. But the problem is that with that material, you can only build up to the 20th floor, let's say. So like, then there is this like calculation of like, what do you expect in the future this building to be? Like, how high is it gonna go? And because you don't know, like, because the future is unpredictable, like, in one way you're looking at it, it might be better to just start as fast as possible and build as fast as possible, because then you have the thing and then you can sell it and like move on. So that makes sense, but on another paradigm, it also might make more sense, like, if you build a strong foundation first, because then you can build, like, it's a lot safer and it can go a lot higher. So there's always these 2 different paradigms at play, I think. Like, and Buildspace pushes more towards the, like, the first paradigm of the, like, build fast, but I think, like, it's very tricky and complicated because it really depends on the kind of project you have, and that's where, like, a lot of nuance, like, all the nuance comes from. But I understand, like, their position, their point of view, because naturally human beings have the tendency of just rationalizing and trying to not get out of their comfort zone, because that increases the risk and increases the energy that you use. So most people are going to default to the path that is safer, let's say, and take longer to deploy. So, like, this other philosophy counteracts the other one. It brings people more to balance, I think, because, like, you're pressuring them to do stuff fast, but at the same time it's very tricky to decide, because I think it really, like, it depends on the context. That's the problem. And here I don't really know, like, because there's so many other variables involved, and it's hard to think about the problem on the micro perspective while taking into account the context of the whole situation. Because if I just want to do, like, make it work as fast as possible, I think that I would be able to do this a lot faster, because I can just, like, implement the first thing that comes to my mind. But then the issue is that, like, I know that later on that it might cause a lot of problems because I built everything in the wrong way, so with the wrong design in mind. So as the system scales and I want to do more stuff, I'm gonna have to... And the problem is that when you build things on top of this, like, every time you build something, it gets more and more gravitational force and more mass, because other structures are built on top of it. So, like, the longer something exists, the harder it is to change. That's why big corporations take a lot longer to make moves, because it's very hard to remain flexible as you grow, because there's more mass, and more mass is more bureaucracy, and it gets more fixed in the state. Like, that's how gravity works. So it is a paradox, as always. So the question is how to achieve the points that encapsulates both perspectives at the same time, but it's very hard to do. This is the stuff that I'm struggling the most, I think, right now. This is like how to conciliate, like, should I just build the simplest thing that I can and then like just try to get users, let's say, for like the 10 first users, or should I just say like screw that and just focus on the like making the thing valuable first and focusing on the like having a strong foundation. It's very hard to think about because it changes all the decisions that I'm trying to make here. So maybe could I put something? Yeah, I think I'm not gonna be able to put something on the edge that is related to the neighbors. I think the only like the two different ways. Yeah, let's try to think about a way that would encapsulate both approaches at the same time. So I think understanding this function here is the key, I think. Just looping through the nodes, then creates a dictionary where each ID is going to be a set. Let's forget about the directed now. And then loops over the edges. Source is the ID from. Destination is the ID true. Then it checks to see if the node of the source doesn't have the destination, and the node of the destination doesn't have the source, because that's how the link is created. Then it adds the nodes to the other one. And so it's pretty simple, I think, to understand this. And then returns. So this is going to be the dictionary of the IDs of the nodes, and then the value is the set of the neighbors. The unique neighbors. That brings more questions as well, because there can be graphs where you have like two connections for the same neighbor. So, but I guess the only thing that would be different is that you can use a dictionary here, or maybe, yeah, maybe you use a list instead of a dictionary, and then you don't put the condition, you just append to the list. So that is not complicated. Let's see, I have lists of node objects and then list of functions. So what is the question here? The question is, what is the best way to change the positions of each node? Maybe you should write down this question and then think about the question first. There must be a way to integrate both of the approaches. I'm not sure if it's gonna be worth, like, depending on how hard it's gonna be to spend time thinking about this, because I still have to solve a bunch of different other things. But let me think about, like, what do I wanna accomplish here? So I think the nodes here are fine. It's just the list of objects and then I'm passing, so it's fine. I think the key here is that here is gonna change the position of the nodes. I think, like, I'm also thinking that this is maybe it's not necessary. Oh, it is necessary actually because of this thing here. But maybe I can use the same cache. I can use the values on the context to assign the position, so maybe I don't need to update the position here. Because I think that the thing that makes it this value recalculate is the context here. When I set the edges here, is gonna, because it is on the array here, is gonna recalculate the values on the of these lines. So I think this value is not related to the other components. It's only related through here. But maybe I can, instead of putting the position here, I can just get based on the ID. Yeah, because I'm passing the ID, so I would just make nodes and then the ID and the dot position. Because each node is gonna have and this is because of the I'm not putting the thing on the correct format, I think. No, maybe not, because it should be looping. But let me think about this thing first. I know it has the position is gonna be the thing that it gets up there. So theoretically, but maybe I need to update it here. Maybe it's better to do it this way, because then it's gonna update the circle here directly. Yeah, because if I set here, yeah, the other one is better. Because if I set here, it's just gonna re-render here, and then the circle is gonna have the same position, because it's not gonna be like what I was thinking about doing is just updating the positions here at the same time that I update the lines, and that way I don't need to set the state here to get the position of this current node. But I think that this updates first because it's part of this component. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how it works. But maybe not, because you're setting inside of the use effect here. So maybe I guess I can try this, but yeah, I'll try it later once I figure out the other stuff. Because I think it would be more efficient to just update both things in the same component here, because it becomes easier to think about, I think. And maybe it's more efficient in terms of the... Yeah, but here it's not doing like any calculation. Let's see, what is this problem? Oh, it's because I'm not setting here. No, but it shouldn't give anything if I'm not setting any values. Oh, it's because this is still objects. Should be working now. Yeah, this one I don't understand. Because I think it should be... Maybe it's because I'm doing this. That's might be the problem. But that should only trigger when the component amounts, I think. But maybe because it re-renders twice. I think that's what's going on. Yeah, it renders once on the server side, I think, and then once on the client side through the use effect. Maybe. Or it renders twice because I set the value here inside. When I set the value, it causes the re-render. And that's why it was creating the infinite loop before, because if you put the values here, you're just gonna re-render every time the value change, and because you're changing inside of the use effect, then it keeps going forever. So this stuff cleans up the nodes once you leave the page. That's why, because I realized this when I deployed the last time, because I left the page, then I came back and the nodes were still there, like there were more nodes each time that I visited the same page. I think it's still like this on the deploy version. Yeah, so let me see. Yeah, so they're both lists of objects. This is weird. And probably the other one is wrong. The way that I'm doing this thing here. So the stack length is 0. Add node, push each of the stack. Oh, it's because I'm using stack instead of new stack. That's why, I think. Oh, it's still undefined. It's here. There we go. Nice. So now we should have the nodes. Okay, so how can I do this? Maybe if I do... And the thing is, if I do it with a dictionary, then it goes back to the thing where it's only gonna allow nodes to be unique. But maybe that's what I want. Yeah, but the problem is, like, how would you capture the connection there? That's the issue. Because, like, I'm thinking about, for example, for a recursion. If you go like to the base level, when you're coming back, like the node's gonna be the same. I think the ID is gonna be the same because all this stuff on the function is the same. So there should be a way to create, if I'm not gonna create a new node, there should be a way to create a new connection, I think. I think I should allow for nodes to have the same ID, and I should allow for multiple edges between them. But it's tough to say because I obviously have to do the visualizations first. Like, I think the only way to know what's gonna be better is by testing. But then I need to have everything set up, I think. So what I'm thinking about doing now is, instead of making a list here, I make a dictionary. Maybe I can just use this node map here. Because that way I would be able to just get the position based on the dictionary. Maybe I use the node map. Let's see. So it maps the ID with the node. So I'll use the node map for now, and then in the future I'll think about it. Because this is only gonna allow unique nodes. So what I'm thinking is loop through here, loop through the edges, and then inside of the edges I filter the thing based on the ID.
And we think when we die, that's just going to be that. Some people console themselves with the idea that they're going to heaven, or that they're going to be reincarnated, or they're going to Summerland or something else. People don't really believe that. But for most people it's plausible. The real thing that haunts them is that when they die, they're going to sleep and never going to wake up. They're going to be locked up in the safety...
What I have to do is get the position of the nodes and the...
But that all depends, you see, upon a false notion of what...
Let me think. Like, the other question is, do I need to loop over all of the edges? Like, because I'm just gonna be changing the position of the node here. And this is obviously gonna be different now. So maybe I should, I should think about this from the standpoint of the position of the... Yeah, but from the current node, it's gonna change the position of the current nodes, and it's gonna change the position of the end nodes. So like all the nodes that node is connected to. So I think the question is how to get... Yeah, how to get the neighbors. But then... Yeah, then I should just use the adjacency thing there. Just use this one. And maybe the simplest way is just use this thing. And then I'll think about it later. Yeah, but I would have to pass this in the data there. So instead of passing the edges, I would pass this thing here. And then from... Yeah, but then how I'm gonna get it? This actually works, I think. I wouldn't even need the nodes, I think. Just loop over this thing. And then for each node, like, it would be exactly the same thing that I was doing before. like here, looping through the neighbors. Is that the best way though? I think before on the example, it was setting the nodes here. But it was also setting the position. And this is difficult to decide. Think more. Like, I don't know if it's like it's a waste of time to think this much about this thing, or if I should just use the. But it seems like one of those decisions that it is important. It's gonna affect everything else later. Because later on, what I'm gonna have to do is pass props to this nodes components, and then from the props that I pass here, I'm gonna pass to the node probably. To the node and to the line, because I want to change the visualization based on certain inputs that people put here. Because I think that's what it makes it valuable. Like, I should allow people to customize the way that they are gonna use the visualization. Because then, like, there's several things you can do to make like more efficient to understand what is going on the script. I think that's the main thing about this, like the main thing that would be valuable. Also, like, it's gonna depend a lot on the, like, how do I get the information? Because that's also like the other key thing. So what do I do? What if I just loop over all the nodes and then update the position? So lines is going to be a list of dictionaries. It starts and ends. It doesn't matter the order, I think. So it's just a list of the dictionaries. This gets the position of the neighbor and the position of the current node. And why is looping? I think the for each is because this returns a bunch of, like, it's gonna return a list of all the positions, like of a list of lists. So it's looping over the list and then getting the start and end here. Maybe I should just comment this out and then do the other thing. I could do another thing. I can test different approaches as well. So So what if I just loop through all of the nodes? Yeah, but then how I'm gonna get the position of the other one? But maybe I can just update. Yeah, because the lines have to be... Like the dictionary has to be for the nodes that are connected. That's the thing. So I have to look through the edges as well. Yeah, if I could loop through the edges and then use the ID to get the position from a dictionary, I think that's more efficient. This edges is just gonna be a list of dictionaries containing the from and to, and then those are the IDs. So from So if I could use this from and this to get in a dictionary, get the position of the nodes. Because the nodes, the way that they are here, is just gonna be... So maybe I do use the node map instead of nodes. I think this way might be better than just using this thing here. And there isn't a function to return, so I'm just gonna create. I should also change the way that this is actually. Because I keep confusing the two things there. This one I actually think it looks better like this, so I'm gonna leave it like this. And this would be a dictionary then. Oh, but if I make it this a dictionary, then I can't loop to get the components. So I think that maybe we should just create three different variables in this context. Because I think it's better to have more use state variables than to loop over there like again. I think if I have that, I forgot that this has to be inside of the thing. But I think having three use state variables is better. And looping here twice, or only once, is better than to have use state variables and then having to loop here 2 times or 3 times. Let's think about it. But the thing is that it might not be, because these things here is like iterating as well to update the thing. This is the thing that I'm not sure about. Or maybe it's better to just get the adjacency lists and update here. Yeah, but let me think. I think this is not gonna solve it as well, because I'll just have the IDs. It gives me the node IDs, but it's not gonna give me the full node. That's the problem. So it doesn't work. So I think I have to go the way that I'm thinking about now. Yeah, there's no possible way to just do it with the tree list here. I mean, maybe I'll just do it like this and then I think about it later. What is nodes? No, I think it's dictionary of dictionaries. Yeah, it's a dictionary of dictionaries. I just put no map. start to come up with names that are different. I don't know if thinking about these things is a waste of time. Like maybe I'm just over analyzing here, like too much. But maybe it's important. Start to know. So definitely spent a lot of time thinking about this already. So here I would use the node map instead. And then here I think yeah, what are his stats here? I think I need to set the position on the map, because that's what I'm going to use there to get that line. So here would be node map. The thing that is different is that it is a dictionary of dictionaries, so I don't know if I'm gonna... Oh, let me go back here. Yeah, ID is gonna be the node, which is a dictionary. That's the difference. So maybe here I'll change, because then it's gonna be like very similar to the way that I was doing before. I change here to just have the node ID map to the position instead of the full object. Maybe I'll create a different thing for this. Because here I think I can't update like this. Maybe I can use the object dot assign, I think. It's just more complicated. Well, if I use the thing, then I don't need the... Oh, but I need the nodes because I'm gonna loop over them. to create this thing. It feels like there should be a way to just have two use state variables and then loop twice. Just by changing the data structure. But I'm not sure. Because I think I have to loop here. Over the nodes, there is no, like, if I loop over that, just can't do it, because then I have to change everything. And then if the other stuff, like, because both of them are lists, I can't do it. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna create this new thing for now. Which is gonna be like the same thing that I had before. How can I call it? Node position. Then when I'm adding here. That way it's gonna be just a mapping of the ID with the position. What? I think I erased the thing. I'm gonna have to think more about this later, but maybe it's better to think about it once I have the graphs and once I figure the other stuff out to make it better. I was actually Yeah, so here I'm looping over the edges, and then I use this node position. Oh, here would be. I think about the correct way to put here. So the edge from to yes, I think this should work. Here should have node position, I think. Yeah, maybe this is not necessary as well. Yeah, so before it was looping over all the nodes anyway, and then looping through the neighbors. So now I loop over the edges, and then for the edges I got the position based on the dictionary. I'm gonna think about the edges for a second. Yeah, here I have to delete this as well. So I think it doesn't matter that I'm only setting the edges on the parent components. Because they're not gonna, like, they're not supposed to change inside of this component, I think. Only from the parent components. Yeah, so let's see, it's probably an error. I should return here. Oh, it's outside. Outside of the loop. Hmm. It's an empty list. That's because I didn't receive anything. Let's click the button. So now it works. That's because I'm not looping over the edges. There should be a list of dictionaries though. Now let me think. Just because I'm console logging this. It's probably not working here. I should stop the console log on the other one. Oh, it's because I'm returning an object. Didn't realize that. I'm gonna put edges again there and it's gonna work, I think. I'm still not sure if the lines are gonna work though. There's still an empty list. Yeah, I think the function is working because I'm receiving the edges there. And it should be a list of objects. So it must be the way that I'm doing this thing here. It should be working. What am I missing here? Okay, should be exactly the same thing there. Oh, what? I guess it's just the way that I was returning there. Oh, weird. Oh no, it's because I'm console logging the wrong thing. Just probably doesn't work anymore. Still. Yeah. But maybe, let's see if no, it's maybe because of some rendering thing. Yeah, it's still, so it should be working. I think it's just because of the way that it renders. Like, it's only gonna be set once it is there. Once it is here. So if I put here, because it re-renders after it sets the values. So the first time it doesn't exist, and then after it is the updated value. Yeah, there we go. So it is working. So why is it saying that the edges are not? You can't map. Let's see if it works now. Yeah, there we go. Works. And the positions are working as well. Yeah, but this weird, I think it's just a problem with the event thing. Nice. Okay, so this works. Like, it is updating everything correctly. The problem is just the use drag thing. But this is a problem, like, I guess that it's only a problem with the use drag. Maybe if I put some physics thing, it's gonna work. But you see, like, here the labels are on top of each other. It becomes like impossible to read. And also here, like, this is the stuff that I don't know how much time it's gonna take to figure out all of this stuff out, because it's very complicated. Like, it's only easy right now because I'm using the 3JS thing, but then it might not be possible to simulate everything. And I also have to do the code editor. So maybe I'll focus on the code editor first, because now I think I have, like, at least the beginning stuff, like because I can get the data, then translate the data into the graph, and then from the graph create the nodes. So now the only thing that is missing is to complete, like, the feedback loop system, is the IDE in the thing. So ideally the person would be able to write down the code here instead of write down the code, then from that I send to a server, then run execute the code. And this is also, like, a very tricky part, because then there's security issues, which I also think is going to be very hard. But yeah, ideally they type the code, then they send it to the server, then it runs, gets the stacks, pass the data to the front end, and then translate. So the thing that I have to change still as well is that I'm assuming that I'm receiving the data as a list, but I'm probably gonna receive it as a list of objects, because it's gonna be better to, or maybe even some complicated way. Yeah, this is the thing that it becomes very hard, because then, like, there's multiple different possible ways to pass the data, because there are multiple possible ways to structure the visualization. So what I have to do is like create multiple different files or functions. Like each one's gonna handle one different thing, and then I have to create a control flow based on the elements on the UI that is gonna determine like which type of data is gonna be transferred. And the other issue is that like the volume of the data, because like I think that if I send, because then it's gonna be very complicated. Like this is the biggest thing that's one of the biggest reasons why I think I'm not gonna be able to finish this through the nights and weekends. Like it's just not enough time to do this, which is a problem that I had in the past where like if you're gonna use Vercel serverless functions, you have a limit of the amount of data you can transfer. You can send through the functions. So what you have to do is break everything down into buffers, and then it gets very complicated because then you have to put a bunch of different, create like pipelines of data, and then just send like some amount each time and break the data down. And then imagine it's going to be extremely difficult on the front end to figure out how like to build a visualization like in chunks, let's say, so it works. Because then it gets into the use effect stuff and the rendering cycle. So what should I do now? That's the question. What should be the next step? I think the next step probably try to incorporate the IDE here. It's gonna be the IDE on the side and then the visualization on the left, and I leave everything the way that it is now. And I change that only once I have everything else. I'm just gonna clean everything up that I'm not using here. Then I'm gonna run again to see if it still works. Yeah, and here I'm just using the shard data. So let me use the whole data. Maybe I'll see if it works first, then I'll use the whole data. Because what I did with the whole data is like 500, and it's a very small script. But there's 500 nodes, and it becomes like impossible to see anything. And because they're all closer together, the use drag is gonna put them all on the same thing. So I imagine I won't be able to use the use drag, and then I'm gonna have to think about the physics engine and the collisions and everything. It's really hard. Just gonna remove everything that I'm not using here. But I think putting the IDE first is better, because then at least like you can have an idea of how it's gonna be. If I'm able to put the IDE and then complete the cycle, then maybe I can share the link or try to get people to use it by the end of the week. Because the thing, the build space that Fars decided is that we have to get 10 users by the end of the week. But I'm not sure if it's like possible or not. So I think doing the IDE first probably. Then even if the graph sucks, maybe I can get this is the thing, like I think I'm probably not gonna do the updates on nights and weekends, to be honest, on this week, because I think it doesn't make sense. Like for the thing that I'm doing, it just doesn't make sense. Because I think like I can obviously get 10 people to try it if I just like try really hard to like send the link to people and tell them to try it. I obviously can get 10 people to try it, but then like that's not real. Like it feels kind of pointless to me, because like the way that I think about it more is like I think it does make sense to share the stuff that you're building and try to get like people to use it, but not by trying to force them to use it. Like you should be focused on making the thing so good that people are compelled to want to use it. That's the approach that I think that is better. And in that kind of a mindset, I can't really force like people to use it. Like I can't force my way into getting users. Like that's not how it works. The only thing that I can do is just build and make it as good as possible, and then share it with people. And then if they find it good, then they're naturally gonna use it. So that's why I think that's because I'm not sure right now, because of this stuff of Buildspace that they said that you have to get 10 users by the end of the week. Like I'm conflicted between these two different approaches. But I think regardless of the way that I go about it, I think I should create the idea first now, and just have something that you can write the script here and then see the visualization, even if it sucks. So it's still working now, after I changed the stuff there. And this is another problem. Like this is one of the biggest concerns that I have actually about this, is because like the way that React and Next.js render state, and I don't know if it's gonna be possible to do it with a bunch of different nodes, because it might be too slow when you update the thing. So there's just also a lot of different stuff that I have to study more to understand. Like maybe Next.js is not even the best approach. Maybe doing like something like with a vanilla JavaScript would be better, even though it becomes like almost impossible to manage stage, because the site can be simple. Like the main concern is just making the visualization as effective as possible, I think. And there's also this other problem with this one, is that the lines here, when it clamps them together, the lines get stuck here. I wonder why though. Because the ID shouldn't change, so all the lines should move. Regardless, should move to the same point. I think it's just because one of the nodes is moving and the other ones are not. So it still thinks the other ones are at these positions. That's why. Because it's only grabbing one node, but actually it grabbed a lot more. I think that's the problem. So it's not the problem with the stuff that I wrote, it's just a problem with the library. I think I'm gonna delete, probably not this use frame thing, because I might use in the future. Like I don't know like what route I should go with. Should just like try to build stuff that people can. Like one idea people gave me on the Nights and Weekends Discord is to just create something like a simple page in the same way that I did on the previous Nights and Weekends, where I had like the graphs visualizations, but like it was the actual HTML of the graph, and then like give options for people to click on the link and visualize the execution of the script. But that will take some time, and is also like not like, I feel like it's kind of pointless to do that. I don't feel like doing that, because I think it doesn't make sense. Like just doing for the sake of doing it, and I think it doesn't make sense. I think like if I wasn't doing the nights and weekends, the best approach would be to just continue to build this and then share what I'm building, both on YouTube and Twitter. And then if people use it, then they use it. And if not, I try to make it better or I do something else. And I think this is the best approach to take, like the best perspective. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And then I'm just not gonna send the updates. And then hopefully they still allow me to present on the demo day. And then obviously until then, like I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to build still. But obviously this is not a problem with Buildspace, like I said before. It's just like, it's tricky to, it's because of both the project that I decided to do and like my current level of skill in relationship to these things like Canvas, WebGL, this kind of stuff. So I think from their position, it makes sense for them to do things the way they're doing. I mean, maybe I'll go into the other nights and weekends as well, like participate on the next one to continue to build with this. I think once I have the whole loop, everything together connected, I'm gonna be able to know, like maybe I should test now, like make a bigger script and then like that has thousands of nodes and see how slow it's gonna be. I imagine it's gonna be very slow. So eventually what I'm gonna have to do is go with the other approach that uses this other graph that is more similar to the VGS. And then I'm gonna have to do, it's gonna be extremely difficult because I'm gonna have to probably try to do optimizations with WebGL to make the thing as fast as possible. Also, ChatGPT recommended to use Pixie instead of 3JS because Pixie is faster apparently, with more nodes, is more optimized for more nodes. So I guess that's the other, like that's the next step probably. So create first close the loop with Fiber, then move to Pixie, and then move to this one. But then obviously that's the thing, because then I don't have time to do the Buildspace update. Now let's put the 500 nodes just to show that's gonna be trash. So I think here, let me see if I can delete more stuff. I didn't want to delete this because maybe I use it more, they use layout effect, but I think I'm not gonna, if I want to use it in the future, just, yeah, the question is why did they put this thing here? I think they put this so that one, it sets the nodes in the beginning, but then so it cleans the nodes after. But I think I'm doing this cleaning on the parent component, so maybe it's not necessary for me. Yeah, because I changed the way that I'm doing. I think I'm just gonna delete this. I'm happy though that I was able to do this. Like, it was breaking my mind. Because it's very confusing to think about this. Like all the data structures and everything. But if I do it with the real data, then it becomes impossible to see. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's like just unusable. And it's very slow. Like, look at this. And this is only 500 nodes. Like, imagine with 10,000. Just gonna be ridiculous. So it could be one of the reasons why this doesn't exist yet, because people tried and it's like impractical. Not sure. The other stuff that I talked about before as well, about creating the patterns with AI and stuff like that, I think that people probably tried before, and maybe there's something that I'm not thinking about it and it doesn't work, or maybe it's just the way that they are doing the large language models now, which is kind of a graph network of weights and biases. But the way that I was thinking about doing is different, but maybe it's the same. Like, maybe there are things that I'm not seeing now that is gonna lead to the same approach that they took. Or maybe it's not gonna be as useful as I think it would be. Because I'm thinking more about the standpoint of capturing the logic from like the interpreters and the whole software design, and trying to abstract away fractal patterns inside of by doing this statistical analysis and gathering a bunch of data. But it's pretty much the same paradigm of machine learning, but it would be, I think, more from a geometrical standpoint instead of the weights and biases. Or, like, it would be a combination of the two. That's the reason why I'm not really sure if it's the same thing or not. Like, maybe it's just that I don't understand well enough. The other problem here is that there's no zoom in and out. So I think I'm gonna try to implement the code ID first though. Just gonna limit this to like a small amount of data, then put the ID, then I'll think about the rest. So I have no idea how to put the ID, so I'm gonna watch videos. I think for this stuff, probably use ChatGPT as well. It's good. The thing is that from the videos, like I think I saw these 2 videos, maybe one more, and like there is multiple ways of doing it as always, but some ways it's just like, it's not really like an ID. It's just like it looks like the ID, but it's not the ID. And then there's some other way that is like kind of the real way, let's say, where in that way it seems very complicated, because there's a video of Code Dem, I think, or this video here, where he doesn't show like how they did it, but he explains the process, and it looks like you need to use like several different systems together to make that work, and you need to use containers for security and that kind of stuff. And I think to find videos about that is going to be difficult, so it's probably going to be better to try to use ChatGPT and try to implement this thing. And then the other concern is obviously that because I don't want to spend money now, I also don't have like money for this, like maybe very small amount of money, but ideally, obviously I would be able to do everything for free to host. So if I can't figure out, maybe I'll have to like pivot and try to do it in a different way. Maybe like another potential way would be they upload the file, and then from the file I run the script. That could be another option, I think. Because what I'm thinking about doing is just on the server side, I put like a bunch of different libraries that are available, and then I check if the script has any of the libraries, like has any library that is not part of the libraries that are available. And then if it's, or I can just try, if it doesn't have any of the things, that either the script's not gonna run, or I send, like, either way, I'm gonna send a message saying that the thing doesn't run. So I'm gonna take a break now, and I think I'm gonna take a 15-minute break and probably spend one more hour or something like that. Maybe 1 hour and a half. And then next I'm gonna try to incorporate the ID. So yeah. What else? Oh, that's the other stuff that I was writing there. So right back. Yeah, another 1 hour and a half. I think after 1 hour and a half, I'm gonna stop streaming. Then probably go eat something. Maybe I'll stream again, but probably not. Usually I say this that I'm gonna stream again, but then I end up not doing.
Hello friends, let's talk about states and the
I guess I'm gonna watch this video first, just to get rid of this stuff.
problems you may encounter. It's one of the most important parts of React, and after React hooks, it became really easy to handle states. We are just creating a state variable, its set function, and the initial state inside your state hook. And whenever we want to update the state, we just use this set function and change the current state. It looks pretty easy, but there are some important points that we need to know. So let's say I have an h1 tag here, and it shows this number. And here, let's create a button, and whenever we click on this button, it's gonna fire this function, and the number will be increased. Let's check the app on the right side. I'm clicking, and as you can see, it works as we expected. But what if I add here another button? Again, it's gonna increase the number, but this time asynchronously. I will say increase async. Of course, I'm not gonna create a real async function, but we can use a timeout function and we'll increase this number after 2 seconds. So when I click, it's gonna wait 2 seconds and update the state. Let's try. Now here, and after a while, it's 2. It looks okay, but what if I click on this async button, and right after that, click on this first button a couple of times without waiting 2 seconds? Let's see what's gonna happen. I'm clicking right after that here, and as you can see, it turned back to 3. So what's happening here? When I click on this button, our number was 2. Let me take a again. Okay, so when I click,
Yeah, this is where he's gonna use a function probably to update the state. That's the reason why I'm doing like this, I think.
is always remembered. But because here, when we update the state in this way, we still refer to the old value. So basically, this number is our reference. To solve this problem, only thing we should do is to use functional update approach. So I will say set number again, but this time, instead of a value, I'm going to pass a function. And the argument of this function will be the latest number we have. Let's say previous number or the current number, whatever you say, but these two are the most common names, so you can choose one of them, previous or current. And I'm going to take this number and increase here like that. Basically, we are not recreating our number. We are just updating the current value in the memory. Let's see right now. Increase, async, increase again a couple of times. And as you can see, it works as we expected. So when you update your state, it's better to use function version instead of updating it regularly like that. Okay, the second common use state problem is the initialization. When you initialize your state, what you are writing in use state is really important. Let me show you what I mean. I'm creating a user state, and at the beginning, we don't have any user. It's going to be empty. But let's say we are going to fetch a user data later and update this user. And after updating, I'm expecting a user like username, email, and images array which includes the profile picture and the cover picture. Something like that. But remember, we don't have them yet. So if I come here and say username is user.name, let's save, and as you can see, there's a white screen here. And it's a really common problem. I saw this many times in one of their social media groups. People are having trouble with this blank page issue all the time. By the way, group links will be in the description below if you want to join and ask your questions. Anyway, the problem is our user variable is undefined. We didn't provide any type here. But in the HTML section, we are trying to get an object property which we don't have yet. To solve this problem, we have many options. The first one, you can write here a condition and say if there's a user, show me this file. In this case, only after updating the user we will be able to see its name. And the second solution is writing here a question mark. Basically, it's a shortcut of verifying an object or array. I mean, it's the same thing with writing here. If there's a user, show me user.name. Let's take it back. And the last solution is to initialize your state with the expected type. So if it's going to be a string, just write here an empty string. If it's an array, write an empty array. And in our case, it's going to be an object. Right now, there is no blank page anymore. But sometimes it's not enough to write only an empty object here. For example, if I write one more span and say profile picture is user.pictures, and I will take the first picture in this array. So if you look at the app again, you will see that we have exactly the same problem. But because this time we don't have such an array. To prevent this, you can write here what properties you exactly need, like username, string, email, string, and images array. In this case, we won't have any problem. I highly recommend you to write them like that because most probably you're going to forget writing a condition somewhere in the HTML. So don't forget writing your tags. Okay, right now I'm going to change the initial state and I will give a name, email, and images. So what I want to do is to update only name of this user. To do that, I'm going to create an input which takes a username and a button to update our user. And I will create another state that holds an empty string. So whenever I write here anything, it's going to update this input state. To do that, I will create an onChange event and update the input like that. Basically, target of the event is this input, and value is the string that we write here. Okay, we have a name right now, but how am I going to update this user? Remember, I will change only this username. All other properties will be the same. Let's write here a click event and call a function. Change user. Let's create this function. We already know that we shouldn't do this by writing user.name equals input or set user.name equals input. It's not going to work because we are not returning a user here. Inside of the set method should be an user object. It's going to assign this value to user state directly. What I mean by that? I will say console log and user. I will change here and click. As you can see, it returns directly this string, and the user is not an object anymore. It removes name, email, and image. You might need to write here an updating function and write it like that. But again, we are not returning any object. It's going to return only this value. Let's see. As you can see, it's still the same. So what we should do is to update this new property while returning the user object. You are going to understand what I mean better right now. I will say return an object, and this object will include everything in the current state. Name John, email John at gmail.com, and images. Everything will be the same. But I will update only name here, and it will be input. And right now, when I click, it will update only username. If you don't know using this factor operator, let me explain quickly. Let's say we have an object which includes name, surname, and age. If I define another object, and it will take every properties of this object, and as you can see, it's exactly the same. I will say take everything, but additionally add here SCT. And right now it has name, surname, age, and C. And also I can change every property here, as we did in the example. Let's say take everything, but change only username. Okay, I think you understood how it works. And this usage is really useful, especially when you have a form and you have many inputs inside. Let me create one. Actually, I'll just copy and paste. And as you can see, I have 8 inputs. And the biggest mistake you can do is to create here use state groups for each input. For name, for surname, for every single one. It consumes a lot of time and it reduces the callability. So what you should do is to create here a single use state, which includes every properties, and change their values using only one function. So I will grab my inputs and create a change event on change and on change. Let's create this function. I will do exactly the same thing. I will use the function update, take every properties from the previous state, and change a specific property according to event target. For example, if I change here, it's going to update only name. But how it's going to know which inputs I need? For name, it will write here name, event target, and value. For surname, event target, and value. Basically, we are going to need their names. It's really easy to handle that. I will choose again all these inputs, and I will give them some specific names. It's going to be name, surname, and others. But make sure that these names are exactly the same names in the state object. Right now, I can use those names like that. Don't forget these parentheses. It's a property name. So I will write console log and check my state. And now, doesn't matter which inputs I'm writing in, it directly updates my state. It's really useful when you want to update multiple states. But should we use state hook everywhere that we need a state or states? The answer is no. Sometimes using a user hook is much better than using a use state. Of course, there is no rule that you should use user instead of use state, or it's not a mistake if you still use it. But in some specific situations, user is more advantageous. For example, if you have more properties here, using a map here, its title, it fires this select. Basically, instead of storing here, I'll select this product, and when I
Hi everyone, I'm Patrick and welcome back to my channel. So 1 year ago, Anaconda announced PyScript, which allows you to create rich web applications using only HTML and Python. And the team behind PyScript has spent the last year improving the open source project a lot, and it grew to almost 16,000 stars on GitHub. And now they just announced PyScript.com, which is a platform you can use for free that makes it really simple to get started with PyScript. And here you can code websites directly in your browser. So in this video, we take a look at the platform and I show you how to use PyScript, and we go over all important features. And in the end, I quickly show you 3 example websites I built with it just to show you what's possible with PyScript. I built a data science web app, a 2D retro game, and a website to chat with ChatGPT. So let's get started. So before we take a look at the PyScript.com platform, let's take a look at the project itself. And the project lives under PyScript.net, so don't get confused here. And I already created a video about this last year, so you can check this out as well. But now let's go over the features again very quickly. So the project itself is powered by 2 other projects that are called Pyodide and WebAssembly. And this allows to run Python directly in your browser, so you only need to include a link in your HTML file, and then you can run Python code. And it supports many popular Python packages, especially the scientific stack such as NumPy, Pandas, and scikit-learn. And of course, it also allows Spider.
Damn, maybe this stuff is useful for me. What I'm trying to do. It's a framework that allows users to create rich Python applications in the browser. PyScript framework provides users at every experience level.
Directional communication with Python and JavaScript. And yeah, it's a very flexible framework. And in the end, it's just HTML powered with Python. And in my opinion, this is a pretty awesome project. So let's take a look.
But maybe it's not useful for me.
At the new PyScript.com platform and then code some example websites. So first, of course, you have to create an account, and you can do this for free. I already did this, so I can sign in. So after signing in, you see your dashboard with all the projects you have. And one thing I want to mention is that right now you have the opportunity to become a founder, so you can support the project and then receive exclusive swag and some more cool benefits. But of course, this is optional. So here you can manage your projects, you can create a new one, you can edit them, and you can also already view the site. So each project will be deployed, and then you can have a look at the website and share the link with your friends or colleagues. So this is super cool for collaboration. So let's create a new project and see how this works. So this initialized a new project with 3 files. We have a main.py file, an index.html, and an empty PyScript TOML file. And as you can see here, we get an editor in our browser where we can write our code. And on the right side, we have a preview of our website. So for example, if we change the text in here, then this will be auto-saved. But in order to refresh the page, we have to click on run. So here you can see the updated output. And now let's go over the code. So the most important one is the index.html file. And PyScript works by including this script here. So this is the latest PyScript.js file. And then they also have a PyScript CSS file for some styling. And the rest of this is normal HTML code. So for example, here, let's add a h1 tag, for example, and then let's give this a heading. So let's say this is a demo tutorial. And then again, this is auto-saved, but I have to click on run again. And then here you see the updated page. So this is already a live website that we can visit. For example, here we can open this in a new tab. And here you can grab the full link that you can share with others. And then everyone who visits the site can also click on view code here in the bottom right to see how the code works. So let's continue with the code here. So PyScript adds 3 major new tags that you can now use in HTML. The first one is pyconfig. And here you can include a PyScript TOML file. Here you can, for example, define some settings and also the packages you want to include. We will do this in a moment. And the second tag is the PyScript tag. And here you can directly write the Python code in here. But it's also cool to separate this away. So here we can simply include the main.py file. And then here we can write whatever Python code we want. And one thing to note is that here we print, and by default, this will create a new console window with some output.
True.
So that's why we see this black window here. And then the last tag that is added is that you can easily add a PyREPL by saying PyREPL and then the closing tag. And now if we refresh this, then we see we already have a REPL that we can use. And now here we can write code on the website. So we can say, for example, a equals 5. And then if we say a and then hit shift enter, then this will be evaluated. And so here we have an interactive window on our site with this PyREPL. So now let me show you some of the features you can do with PyScript. So first let me show you how you can write the PyREPL also to an output. So here let's create a new div, for example. And here we give the div an ID. So we say ID, and then we can call this, for example, REPL output. And then here in our PyREPL, we can specify the output and say the output has the same name. So this is also the REPL output. And now if we run the site again, and then again define some code, we say hello equals hello world, and then hello, and then shift enter, then you see this is now be written to this div with the REPL output ID. The next thing, so I already mentioned this, is that whenever we print something, then by default this is written to a console window that we see here. And here we can write any Python code we want. For example, we can import other modules. So let's say import datetime as dt. Then let's also create a function, define show time. And here, for example, let's print the datetime.date today. And now if we also call this function, so here we say show time, and then let's run this again, then you see we also get the current time now in the output. The next thing I want to show you is how instead of writing it to the console window, we want to write it to an HTML element. So let's create a new one. For example, this time let's use a p tag, and then we have to give it an ID. I call this today. And then in our Python code, we can say element, and this is already included from PyScript, so we don't have to import this here. And then we use the same ID today, and then we can call .write, and then here we want to write datetime date today. And here we have to be careful because this will now be the pure datetime object, but we also want to have the string representation, so let's convert this to a string. And now let's run this again. And now you see we have a p tag where we show the output we computed in Python. The next thing I want to show you is how we can handle click events. So this time I already prepared the code, so let me simply copy and paste this here. So here we create a button, and then here we use the pyclick attribute, and here we use a function name and call this function. Then here we also have a p tag with an ID where we want to write the output in. And then here I included another PyScript tag, so you can have multiple ones in one. And this time I'm not referencing a file, so this time I write it directly in here, just to show you that this is also possible. So here again we import date time and have a function, and now this is the same name, current time. And then here again we get the element with the current time, and then we say element and then write this, and now again we have this pi click. So if we run this again, then whenever we click on this button, this will execute the function. So you can see the time is updated and it shows the latest time in this p tag. The next thing I want to show you is how we can call an API with the requests module. So for this, let's create another PyScript tag, and here we import requests, and then in order to make it work with PyScript, we have to patch it. So we have to import pyodide.http and then call pyodide.http.patchAll, and now we can work with requests like we normally do. So for example, we can say requests.get and then send a get request to this endpoint, and in this example we print response.json, and now we have to list those two dependencies.
The problem with this is that for my case is that I'm gonna have to use the sys library, so I think this doesn't work. But maybe I can try to see if it runs. If it did, it would be great, I think, because then I can do all the Python stuff directly from Next.js instead of having to put a server and then send this stuff, run the code, and then send back.
And we can do this with pyscript.toml. And here we say packages equals, and now as a list here we give it all the required packages. So in this case we want requests, and then we want pyodide-http. And now when we click run, this will be automatically installed for us, and now we should see the output in our window. And as you can see here, we get the JSON response, so the requests module is working. Now let me show you how we can pass objects from PyScript to JavaScript and vice versa. So first let's pass some objects from JavaScript to Python. So let's write some JavaScript code by including a script, so a normal script, not a PyScript. And here we can write JavaScript code, so we can also define a variable, for example, name equals Patrick. And then we can also define a function by saying function add two numbers, and this gets two input variables x and y. And here we simply return x plus y. And now we want to call those two variables, so the variable and the function in Python. So for this, we can say import JS. So this is provided from PyScript. And now, for example, we can say print JS.name, so we can access all the variables. And we can also say print JS.add two numbers, and now call all the functions with some variables we computed in Python. For example, here, let's hardcode this with 3 and 4. And now if we run this again, and then you see we have some more output. So we printed the name and we printed the sum of 3 and 4. So this is working. And now let me show you how to do it the other way around. So let's say we have a variable in Python. So we call this a_Python equals, and this is a number with the value 10. And now in order to use this in JavaScript, for example, we can say plus, and then we call PyScript.interpreter.global. So it has access to all global variables. And then we get the variable with this name a_Python. And now remember, right now the result is 7. And if we also add 10, then let's see if we correctly get 17. And now you can see we get 17, so this is working, and this is how we can access Python objects in JavaScript. So this one here is the simplest way by simply accessing the global variables. There are a few more ways how you can do this, but for this I recommend to simply check out the documentation. So these are all the main features I wanted to show you in PyScript. And now as a last thing, let me quickly show you 3 more example websites that I built. So the first one is the ML demo that uses scikit-learn and matplotlib. So this one applies a k-nearest neighbor classifier to classify and then plot the iris data set. So here, for example, I can select the number of k, and then it will run the classifier, show the accuracy, and then also show the plot. So for example, if we change k, then you should see how the plot changes and also the accuracy. So let's quickly go over how this works. So in the index.html, we have a few input labels, and then here again we use the pyclick, and every time we click on one of those numbers, it will run this function, classify and plot. And then here we have some p tags where I have an ID, and there I will write the output. And then we include the main.py, and here we write our normal Python code. So this is all done with sklearn. And then we use matplotlib and also seaborn to plot this. And one important thing to mention here is that in the end, instead of saying plt.show, here we say display, and then we display the figure, and then we reference a target, and we listed the graph area in our index.html with this ID, and then it will write the plot to this element. And then of course we also have to define the packages, matplotlib, scikit-learn, and seaborn. And yeah, this is how simply you can bring a fully featured machine learning application to a website with PyScript. The second cool website I want to show you is this cool 2D game you can easily build. So let me turn off the sound, and then you can control this bird here with your keyboard, but it's not working in this preview, so for this you have to open this in a new tab. And I didn't implement this myself. This is from one of the PyScript maintainers. So the way it works is that you again include your PyScript Python script, and then here in this demo 10 file, it is based on the Pixel library. So this is a 2D game engine, and then here you simply code your app, and then in the end run app.py. And yeah, it only takes a few lines of code to have a fully functional 2D game in your browser made with Python. And the last example I want to show you is how we can build a website to chat with OpenAI's ChatGPT. So here we have this message box, and then here we have the output where it asks what type of chatbot would you like to create, and then I can, for example, say a friendly bot, and then click on send, and then here we get the text, and then it says say hello to your new assistant. So I can say hi, and now it's calling the OpenAI API, and we get a response. So it says hello, how can I assist you? And then I want to say, for example, I want to talk about PyScript, and then again it's calling the API, and we can talk with our bot. And the way it works is that for this we again have to do a small workaround because it's not working with the official OpenAI Python SDK at the moment. So again we have to do this workaround that I mentioned earlier. So we have to import requests and then call pyodide.http.patchAll, and then we have to send the requests ourselves. So here we define the endpoint that we find in the API documentation, and then we send a post request to this endpoint, and here we define, for example, the model, and then send over our messages. And then in the index.htmls we simply define a small UI with this checkbox and then the button, and then in the end we call our PyScript main.py. And yeah, this is how we can set up OpenAI's ChatGPT with PyScript. Alright, so I hope you now have a good overview of the pyscript.com platform and how to build websites with Python and PyScript. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments if you like PyScript and if you want to try it yourself, and then I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
Yeah, I think this is probably not useful for the stuff that I'm trying to do. But it is pretty cool though.
Hi guys, hello and welcome to another video. Some of you have showed concern that you don't have a computer on which you can install an IDE to run Python. So here I have a very cool web-based.
The other stuff that I was thinking about is that maybe I could just create an input and then use the input to send the stuff. But then the problem is that you don't have the language. I believe they don't have the highlighting syntax as well. So maybe they are doing something different as well, but... Oh, they do highlight. Let's see if I can do something like this. I'm just gonna call any function to see if I can import the OS there. It's better choose ChatGPT. Yeah, that's what they are doing. I think I'm gonna save this because if they chose these ones, it means that they are probably safe. And maybe other ones not so much. So they're probably using this ACE. I think I've seen the ACE library before.
IDE for you to write your Python code and run it without a problem. Here is the website address. As you can see, it is py2.codesculptor.org. py2.codesculptor.org. So let me write some code here. So let me delete this. Print hello world. So you're learning how to write your first Python instruction. At the same time, you're learning about this new free web-based editor in case if you can't install one, because some of you have told me that you have Chromebooks. So here you can, after you write this or whatever instructions you want to write here, you can just simply click this play icon, which is run. And here you can see the output. Isn't it cool, guys? You can open, if you have a Python script, you can open by clicking the open local, you can save it, you can do all sorts of stuff, but this is a cool solution. At least in the meanwhile, you figure out how to be able to install one on your local computer and run it, but for the basic, simple stuff, it's a great tool. Let me know in the comment section below, and I promise you that we will be starting a Python tutorial pretty soon, so that will be my next video about that. I will be taking you through the journey of how you can code in Python. Till then, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
I think here is, I think I should use the use effect still, and then fetch from the API inside of the use effect, because the canvas requires the window, so I think it's not worth to, I think it wouldn't work to use the get server-side props and use the API serverless functions. But I'm not sure. I think it should work if we just use fetch inside of use effect to get the data. And I think I'm also gonna have probably to do another server. I think I'm gonna use Django instead of Flask, and then have to see how to host it. And this is the part that is difficult, because I think it's gonna be really hard to figure out how to execute, because you need to create a Docker container, I think, and I have no idea how to do that on the server.
dot edit, and the first argument we need to have is the element. So the element is this division with an ID of editor. So let's first of all reference that. Here just type let editor equals document dot query selector hash editor, and let's pass that over here. So I'll just type editor, and the next one is an object. So here we can set different options for the editor. The first thing we will do is set the theme. So I'll just tap theme and we'll set the theme to Cobalt. So just tap ace / theme / Cobalt. And now let's go back to our website. And now we can see here we have the code editor and we have the theme applied. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to set a programming language. So right now if I just type const, we can see that there is no syntax highlighting because the code editor does not know which language this is. So for that we have to set a language. So let's go back to our JavaScript and here we have to type mode and we have to set it to a language. Let's set it to JavaScript. So let's type ace / mode / JavaScript. And now if we go back and if I just type const, we can see that we have syntax highlighting. So now this code editor knows that we are writing JavaScript. Let's type something over here. Let's type heading equals document dot query selector heading. So now we can see we have complete syntax highlighting for this code editor. Now there are a lot more options that you can add. So if you go back to the AceJS website and if you click on C configuration Ace wiki page, here we can see all the available options are displayed over here. You can just copy and paste these options from here and just add the correct value. So if it is a boolean, you can just type true or false. And if it says number, you can just add a number. And you also have options where you can select one of these 3 options. So that's basically how you can add a code editor to your website. I'll just change this comment. So here I'll just type program to reverse a string. Now you can also take a look at different themes in Ace library. So if you go back and if you scroll down, if you click on see all themes, these are all the different themes. So you can just get the name of this theme and add that over here in the mode. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.
In this tutorial, we'll be building an online code compiler. So this is the finished version and I'll just walk you through what we're going to build today. Here is a text box and I have written some C++ code here. And if you click submit, you'll get the output here written hello world. Now firstly, let's discuss how we're going to structure this app. So there'll be a browser that will be a React application, React app. Backend that will be a Node.js backend and the system shell. So once when I have to run this code, I'll hit a post request on /run along with the language and the code. So using this code in Node.js, I'll use the exec command to run this code and then I'll get the standard output. Now using the standard output, I'll send it back to the React app. So that's all we have to do for the first part of this app. Now let's get started with the coding part. Now I've opened the editor, as you can see, it's VS Code, and I've created a folder called online compiler. Now as we move ahead with the project, we'll try to grow organically, and that is that as we need the packages, we'll install them. Now some experienced developers of you might feel the urge to install all the government packages at first itself. You can feel free to go ahead and do as you like. This is a simple REST API that we're going to create right now. Now I'll go ahead and create a backend folder here. So this folder will contain all the code for our REST API or the backend server. Now once it's created, I'll open it in the integrated terminal and write npm init to initialize the Node.js package. Now I'll just hit enter for everything and have everything as default for now. Now you can see that we have a package.json created for us. This will contain all the things that are related to the metadata of our project. Now we can close this up and create a new file called index.js. This will be the entry point file of our project. So just typing simple boilerplate code in here, console.log, hello world, and it's done. So now I'll go ahead and run this with node index.js and hello world. Like writing this can be complicated and we can avoid this by using a script. So we'll go ahead and create a script in package.json saying node index.js. So whenever I run npm run start, it will type this command node index.js and run our file. So now that we have it installed, now let's get started with creating the REST API. To create the REST API in our Node.js project, we'll use a package called Express. So I'll install the package npm install -- save express. That will install the package in our folder, and as you can see that it is automatically added in the dependencies. So if I go ahead and write const express is equal to require express, const app is equal to express, and app.listen 5000, and we send in a callback function which will be fired when this app gets started. So listening on port 5000. So I'll do npm start, and there we go, listening on port 5000. So let's see if it works or not. I'll go ahead to the browser and I'll write localhost 5000, and we cannot get /. So I'll write app.get /, and we create a new arrow function here. Now this arrow function after the / as some of you those who are experienced with Express might know, that we get a request and a response. It is just simple code that now this inside the block, this will get executed when I hit the / route. So I'll now send I'll not do anything with the request. I'll just simply send a response back. So I'll do res.json hello world, and I'll write a return here. So now if I restart the server again, and here we go, we have hello world. So now that our app server is basically complete, we can now move ahead and try to code the actual thing that we want to code. That is the online code compiler or route/run. That will help us run the file. So if I go ahead and write app.post, we'll have this as post because we need to get some parameters as well along with the request. So we'll have post, same request response, and Now I'll return res.json rec.body. So body will contain the actual language and the code that we'll send from the browser, send back whatever we get as a request. So I'll now do this again. Now you cannot actually send a post request from the browser. So to send a post request, I will be using Postman. So you can get Postman easily for free from their website. So I'll switch this method to post and http://localhost 5000 run. So I don't have actually anything in the body, and I just send it and I get an empty response. Now this XWW form URL encoded is something that will be sent from the browser to us. Like this mimics that behavior. So since we do not have anything right now, as in a client, we do not have a React client right now, we can simulate the same request from Postman. So if I write in language and CPP and hit a send request, now what do we expect? We expect that we'll get language and CPP as a response. But we don't, right? We don't get anything language CPP. So let's see where we are going wrong right now. If we just console.log here request.body, this means that it will also console log it somewhere around here inside the terminal, and I send this request again. Nope, I get an undefined. Now why are we getting an undefined? We sent some data here, right? Now this is actually happening because we are not parsing that data. That data is in some format that is not exactly available in request.body. It is there with the request, but we need to parse it into the body for us to use it, right? So we'll use a functionality called express.bodyparser or express.parser. So we'll use app.use express.URL encoded. So this is URL encoded, it's www form URL encoded, and we'll send extended true. Also, just to be safe, I'll also use app.use express.json. I think this should work now. So I just start the server again and send the body back. Here we have the response now. So I will take whatever we have in the URL encoded form data and give it, like make it available inside request.body, right? So now we have request.body here. Now that we have it, I can also have the actual code content here, hashtag include stdio, blah, blah, blah. So I just send it and I get a code here. If we just like go ahead and extract these things out, so I'll write const language equal to rec.body.language, const code is equal to rec.body.code. So this will extract these things out. Now what ES6 provides us is, it will give us a very short syntax that, okay, rec.body is an object. You can just simply write const rec.body and extract these out from this. So this is equivalent to this. Now every time we use this syntax, as it is more human readable. Now let's suppose we don't get language with this. So what do we want to do right now? We just need to support CPP right now, right? C++ right now. So even if we don't get language, we can assume that, okay, he wanted to send us CPP. So I can go ahead and write CPP. Now this is the ES6 syntax that tells us that, okay, if you don't get anything as language inside request.body, use CPP as your default value. So now let's go ahead and test this. Right now we will get this if I write Python or Py. We will get Py, but if we choose go ahead and deselect it, like we don't send it with this request. Okay, yep. See, this happened because we are still sending rec.body. So I'll go ahead and write language and code. So I'll send this as a response now. npm start and send. You're right, you are getting CPP because it is coming as a default value. But what will happen as a problem is when you send an empty code. Now that should not be allowed because you cannot run an empty code, right? So if I just go ahead, if code is equal to undefined, I need to return a response saying, and the status should be 400. So what 400 says is bad request. So res.status 400 and JSON response saying success is equal to false, the job didn't succeed, and the error is that empty code body. Right.
Maybe you should create this stuff on another page first to test. But I think I'm just gonna follow what ChatGPT is saying there. It looks like there's these 2 different libraries as well. And this one looks like it would be more difficult to implement on Next.js. Not even sure if it's possible because of the syntax here. You would be inside a component, so I think the other one's probably better. I think I'm gonna continue to watch this though, and then after I watch this one, I'll follow. I think as I watch this, I'm gonna copy the stuff that ChatGPT talked about.
Empty code body. So I think this should work. Now let's go ahead and see. Okay, this is here. False, empty code body. So I get a status 400 bad request, as you can see here, and I get the error. Right. So this is done. I'm getting the language and I'm also getting the code now. We need to generate a C++ file with content from the request. We need to run the file and send the response back. So we just need to create two different functions. That which will generate a C++ file, and then we need to run the file and send the response. Right. So now let's go ahead and create these functions. So I will write. It's better to you not like put everything into index.js file, and you can go ahead and create a new file for yourself, through which we import the functions later on. Like generate file.cpp. Oops. Go ahead, generate file.js. So now what this file will do is it will like we'll create a function over here. So const generate file, and we'll create an arrow function here, and then we'll export it. So module.export will equal to generate file. And since this is done, now what content will I need? I'll need the format and the code content, right? So, and let's make this an async function because we need to, we need to go step by step synchronously. So we'll go ahead and create a folder. We'll need a folder here. Okay, so we have this function here and we are exporting it. So firstly, we need to look where do we need to store these codes. We can store them somewhere here inside codes. So how will this relate to this? From index.js, this is directly in the folder of codes or generate.file and codes. So we'll like have the path module. You'll see in a moment what we do with it. So I'll just require it. And now I'll create a path file for the code directory. So that will be path.join dir name. So what dir name does is it will give the path of the folder in which generate.file.js exists. So wherever this file exists, dir name will give us that. And we'll do codes. So this is particularly useful path.join because you have different ways of writing path or folder names or joining folder names in different operating systems. So this kind of gives us a cross-platform functionality. You can use / in Linux and / in Windows. So all of this is handled by path.join, and you have this codes, but you're not guaranteed that this codes folder will exist every time, right? That you may or may not have this, and if you do not have it, it will cause a problem while writing the file. So now let's go ahead and I'll show you how to use fs module to do this. So const require fs, and you do if a very simple condition, if not fs.existsync. So what is if it doesn't exist? If dir codes doesn't exist, fs.makedir sync, so make directory in a synchronous fashion, dir codes and recursive is true. So now this is done. We are now sure that once we are at the end of this line, we'll have a folder named codes, right? So now we have to create a file. So now what will be the name of this file? If you think about it, we can create code 1, code 2, code 3, but that is kind of cumbersome, right? It is difficult to do. So what we'll do is we'll use a unique ID generator, and through that unique ID generator, I'll create a new unique ID for each file, join.cpp after it, and then save the content in this file. Now that might seem a lot. Let's jump into the code and see how we'll actually do it. So we do npm install -save UUID. UUID is a really good package that helps us generate very unique IDs. So I'll now import it. So we'll have this const require UUID. The UUID has a lot of versions inside of it, and as you can see, there is v1, v3, v4. Now using v4 as a variable name inside of our code won't make it actually very easy for us to understand what v4 is. So what we can do is we can extract v4 out of whatever UUID provides us and rename it as UUID. So the function v4 is now renamed as UUID for further use inside our code. So const v4 UUID, okay, now that is good. We'll create a new variable saying job ID is equal to UUID. And it's done. We get a new job ID. We get a string. So like you can see, UUID takes an options and returns a string. So we are sure to get a string here. Now we create the file name. So what file name does it? It will combine the job ID and the format together along with a dot in between. So const file name is equal to, we'll use template strings here. JavaScript template strings are really good to manipulate strings and create new formats. So we'll do this. We'll do const file name is equal to template string. We'll use job ID here and we'll use format here. Now we'll create a file path. So now I'll use this dir codes like /home /reference /codes and combine them with this file name. Now to combine, what did we use before? We used path.join. So we use that again for cross-platform availability and everything should work fine everywhere. So const file path is equal to path.join, sorry, not JSON, path.join, dir codes and file name. So this will give us /home etc the unique ID.cpp. Now in this file we'll generate this file and write the content inside of it. So what we'll do is we'll await. So fs.write file sync, we'll use this function, and in this file path we are going to write this content and return the file path. Now let's summarize what we have created here. So we have const job ID is equal to UID. We create a unique path. We join the format along with it. We create a file path for this file, and then we write the content in that file. Now I'll just use auto formatter to clean up everything. Now is the time to actually test whether we are able to write this content or not. So how we will test is we'll write this content inside this file, and then we'll send the file path
I
back.
don't understand why it has to execute the code here, but I think that the reason why is probably because you need to create the file here. I don't get why use the spawn process here. Not even sure, like, not sure if that's correct or not. I've seen this before, so I think that it might be correct, but I think like I've seen it from Python, the child process module from Python. And I also remember seeing at some point, like in some tutorial, like a long time ago, on how to execute Python on JavaScript, and it had some libraries like this on a Node.js server. So you might be right. But what I don't understand is why spawn the process here on the front end and not on the server. Because in my mind, it's like you could just send the input as a JSON string, and then from the server you load the input, and then you do whatever you have to do. So I'm trying to think if it is. Let's see the ChatGPT response. I guess I can just ask and see what the explanation is. I'm not sure if it's executing. Maybe it's not necessary to send to the server. That's why it does it like this. Because in this situation, it would only execute the code, which is not what I'm trying to do. So that's the difference. What I'm trying to do is visualize based on the stack trace. So I do have, that's like what I'm thinking. I don't, like, instead of having this file, I would just have the server API here, the path, the URL for the API. And then on the server, I make the checks, security checks, and see like what kind of input it is. And ChatGPT, it seems like it's getting better and better. I think they are using the inputs from people to make it better. Or it's just because the version that I was using earlier was GPT-3 and now it's 3.5 or 4. Also, something that I saw on Twitter is like people said that in order to choose GPT-4, all you have to do is go into the Bing. Because Bing 1 uses GPT-4.
to the user inside the postman. So now I'll have to make it async because I'll have to like generate file waits for this. So we wait for generate file. Now this is an async function, so we can simply use const file path is equal to, oh wait, we have to import this first. So we'll go ahead and const. Now I use this technique to do it because I don't actually write first what I need to import. I first write from where do I need to import it. Now I'll show you in just a second why that is beneficial. So I have written const curly braces equal to require generate file. Now here I get autocomplete, which I wouldn't have got first because the code editor didn't know where to import it from. So I get const generate file, and then I use this function here. So I generate file, I send in the language, and then I send the code, right? And then I send this file path back to the user. So const file path. Now let's go ahead and run this thing. So npm start, and as you can see, we already have a codes folder here, which wasn't here before. So this means that when I require it, this file runs automatically, and it exports it from here. Like it this const code is defined, it creates this function, the generate file function is defined, and then we export it. So when we are requiring anything, we are sure that all the setup that we need to do, it will be executed. So enough with that. Now I'll straight away go ahead and use postman to send a code file. So I'll do cpp hashtag include stdio.h int main printf hello world and with return 0, and we do this. So I will go ahead and include ice cream here, and we're done. We'll send this file. I get an empty file path. Now let's see what happened here. We have an error. It says that content is not defined. Why is content not defined? Oh, code. Great.
Oh, that's why.
So I'll do content npm start. I send request again get it 200. Okay, I didn't use await, right? So I didn't use await. Const file path is equal to await generate file. I'll restart the server, and I do this, and now I get this path. So now we complete the generating file part. We can simply go ahead and run this file. I don't really think we can do that right now because we have a very silly error. So now I think it should be correct. Yep, that is correct now. So I have this file. I can go ahead and even run this file. I'll try to show you. So cd codes. I'll do g++7.cpp, and then I get a .a.out, and then I do hello world. So I send the content from here. It goes all the way to this API out function. Then we generate the file, and then we can even run it from here itself. So I'll go ahead and delete the files for now. That is done. Now I need to figure out a way how to run this file, right? How am I running it right now? I'll start ahead with that. So firstly, wait, I shouldn't have deleted that. Node index.js, cd backend, node index.js, and here I'll send the file again. We get this file, so that is working flawlessly now. And how do we actually run it? We go inside the folder, we do g++, the file name, and if I just combine it into two commands into the one command now, and .a.out, I get hello world, right? So this is the trick that we have to do programmatically. Like we don't do it manually, the program does it for us. So I'll now go ahead and create the file through which we'll be able to execute this command inside the shell and then send a response back. Okay, so I have this generate file, and now what I need to do is I need to create another function through which we'll be able to run this file. Now what do we need to do right now? We need to have a functionality through which we will be able to execute shell commands from inside of Node.js. So we'll use Node.js child process module. Now this child process, what it does is it gives me two functions. One is a spawn and one is an exec. You can go ahead and look what differences are here. But for this video, we'll be using exec command. So I'll go ahead and create a new file, run or execute cpp.js. Yeah. So using that same type, const exec equal to require child process. So and then I'll create a new function, const execute cpp. Now it will be a very simple function. It will take in the file path that we just generated, it will execute it and give us a response back. So now I'll create a simple function which takes in the file path and a normal arrow function, and then we execute it as well. So we export it, and then we have const execute cpp file path. So I'll return a new promise. Promise in very layman terms, it can also mean that, okay, just be sure that you'll either get a response or you'll get an error after some time. So please wait for me. So I have the standard generic resolve reject structure here. It is better to create a separate folder in which we'll store the outputs. So going by the same functionality, I'll just write it down very quickly again, that output path is equal to path.join, and that will be /name and output. So it will create a folder over here, and if not fs dot I don't know why this suddenly stops working in between. So const fs equal to require fs dot exist sync output path. If it doesn't exist, then I go ahead and make this sync output path and recursive is true. So we'll be sure that we'll have an output folder here when we execute this file. And now we go ahead and actually create, like we get a file path. So we have to now extract the job ID so we can create a good output file name. So since it is .a.out, we'll use the job ID instead of the job ID.out. So const job ID. So what did we have here? Copy path. I'll just so const this /home/reference/online compiler. All we need is this part. What we can do is we can straight away use base name to do that. Right? We just need the base name. So base name is essentially this file, the file that we're talking about, and we can use the inbuilt functionality that is provided as per path. So I'll include the path module here, and const job ID is equal to path.basename file path. Then what it will give us is, I'll just show you, /code/ this file name, and we'll get this as well as this. But what we need is just this. So how about splitting the string into two portions on this decimal or full stop dot split colon slash. This will give us an array of this part, so it will be now like this. Now we need the first index. So we get the first index. So now that I've got the job ID, I'll now create the output path. So path, so const output path is equal to path.join output path. Now what do we have to do? We have to join the outputs folder and the out name. So we'll do const job ID dot out. So exec, wait, we can do this even outside of the promise. We don't need to have this inside of it. So what we do, we return exec. Now what exec does is it takes in a command. So what will be a command to execute the C++ file? It will be g++ file path, that is where does the file exist, what file do we have to compile, where do we have to output it, we can specify using the O flag. So we do this and then we put the out path. So where do I need to have the output stored? Now what will happen is we are still in the backend folder right now, so we need to go inside of it, inside the outputs folder. So we do cd output path and then execute it as you normally do. So we do // job id dot out, right? We simply do this dot out. So yep, and then once I write this entire complete command, I'll send in a callback function. I'll do this on the next time. So this.
Well, the thing I just thought about is that I'm probably gonna have to separate them. Like, no, maybe there is a way. No, but actually the sites that have code editors don't use key mappings on the website. Because I'm thinking about if I'm gonna try to put event listeners on the graph so that you can move around with the keyboard, then I can't put the editor on the same page. But maybe I can, but it's gonna be complicated because the keys are gonna be used for the code editor. So I have to understand how like the source code of this stuff works.
More legible. I have sent this command before, and now I'll send the error std out, std error. So these are the three things. Error, as you can see, it will tell us what error did actually occur. Std out will be the normal standard output that will be sent to us if nothing wrong happens, and std error will be the error output that will be sent to us. So if there is an error, I actually reject this promise. Reject is not actually reject, but it tells the code calling this function that there is some error. So I'll send the error and std error along with it. Or if there is std error or error, I'll reject std error. Cool. And now reject simply exits out of this function. We don't go below reject. So reject is something like a return on steroids kind of thing. So, or now since everything is fine, I can just resolve and I can just send the output back. Okay. And I think this function is complete. So I execute CPP is called along with the file path that we generate from the function that we created before. Then we create const job ID. So we extract the job ID, we get output path. Then we return a new promise where we execute this statement and resolve std out if everything was fine. So now let's test it. Now let's test if this actually works. So I move this file into the backend. I don't know why it comes outside every time. And const output is equal to await. I'll have to import it as well. Equal to require / execute CPP, and then we get the execute CPP function and await execute CPP and file path. So we get the file path and the response as well. Now I think we are ready to test it. So we'll just come back and write npm start. So npm start, this is working, and now this is the code that we had. So I think we should expect a hello world in response. So I just send it. And it takes some time. You do notice that it took 765 milliseconds. Now ESX allows us to write this in a very short form. So if there is an error, like if it is not false, then error and reject error std error, right? If std error, if this is true, then we'll execute the next function as well. Reject std error. Else resolve std out. And we can delete everything below this. So it gives me a very small function. So even if I have something like for I is equal to 0, I is less than 100, I plus plus, and I just enclose this inside this braces, and I do this. It will take some time, as you might expect. Did something go wrong? Yes, something went wrong. Unhandled promise rejection warning object. Okay, yeah, I didn't try catch this. So try. Yeah, wait. If something goes wrong, like if you get an error or something, it throws an error and you catch that error inside the try catch block. Now we'll see what this error is. Res.status 500 JSON and error. So now let's restart the server. And I send in. Okay, this is killed because A was not declared in scope. Oh, is this an error? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So as you can see that you can even get a very comprehensive error regarding this. So I had A was not declared in scope. This is particularly useful because we're able to show this output on the dashboard as well. So if I now do this, yep, we get /. This looks beautiful. And now for this basic part, for part 1, we are done with our backend. Okay, so now is the time to create a React client. To use this, I use the utility create React app. So now let's see how do we do that. So to do this, I use npx create React app, and then I write the name of the directory or the React project that I want to create. So that will be client, and this does npx create React app client. So we'll wait while this finishes. Okay, so now that this is complete, so I'll just split this terminal into two, and here I'll cd into the client and click yarn start. So this will start up the server. Just a second. Okay, so now that you can see, here is the React logo, and this is the default template that we get with the React app. Now I'll just go ahead and remove this boilerplate code inside src app.js. So here you can see that you have edit and save to reload. We have to remove everything. So from header to the next header, I'll delete this code. I'll save this and I'll write, okay, I'll remove this necessary import. And you can see that here we have go into app.css and see that .app has this text align center. So I'll remove this. And here it goes into its correct place. Now it's the time to create our own text box and a submit button through which we'll send the data. So here I'll remove this here. Here I'll add firstly a heading saying online code compiler. Yes, this is H1 compiler. Now I'll add a text area here. So text area, I'll save this. We get this text area here. And then I'll add a break line and then a button. So the button that will say submit. Now we can see that this looks kind of thin. So I'll add rows here. So rows is 20 and false is 75. So the width of it. So now this looks more like a proper editor. Now I'll save this, and now what we have to do is, now if we write the content over it doesn't get saved anywhere, right? So the first thing that we have to do is to save whatever content we have in this text area. So for that, I'll be using a use state hook that is provided to us by React. So import React and use state from React. Now here I'll write const code set code is equal to use state and with an empty string. So I'll initialize this variable code with an empty string. Now just to give you a brief, this will be the variable that will store the code content of this text area, and the set code will be used to change the content of this text area. So this is the default content with which we'll start it with. So I'll use this and set the value as code. And if I add an on change listener here, I'll create an anonymous arrow function where we'll get the event object, and then in this event object we'll use set code e.target.value. So now we have this, that whenever this code changes, we'll receive this e as a parameter, and this .target.value will be the text content of this text area. So I'll then use it to set code. And now it's the time to use an on-click listener on the button. So on-click handle submit. So we'll create this handle submit function over here. Handle submit is equal to anonymous function. So const handle submit, and I'll just console log the code. So here now if I just open the console here using Ctrl+Shift+I and send this below and write a code #include stdio.h and I submit this. So you can see that this has been console logged here. This means that everything is working, and in this handle submit function, now we call the backend. We'll send this code to the backend and get a response back. Now to send this response back, I'll be using Axios library to do this job. So I'll shut down this server for a moment and write npm install and save Axios. Yep, now it is ready to be used here. So I'll just import this, import Axios from Axios. We'll create a payload object that will send along with the request. So payload will be language is PPP for now, and the code is the code. So ES6 code code is same as code. So using this, now I'll send the response. So axios.post http://localhost 5000. And now we send the data. So the data is payload. And we again create this as an async function and wait for the output. So const output is equal to await axios.post. So just clarifying it, handle submit, we make a payload object, and then we send this post equals to /run. So http localhost 5000/run, and then we get the output, and then we console log it. So let's see what we get here. Now I'll have to start the backend server as well. So cd backend and npm start. Here also we do yarn start. Okay, so I open the console and let's see what we have. So 0 and this. Now hit submit. But now I get an unexpected error. It says that localhost 5000/run from origin 3000 has been blocked by post policy. So now to briefly explain this, I just tell you that on the localhost, if you send request from one port to another port, this will be blocked by default due to the post policy. So that is cross origin resource sharing policy. It blocks it. So now I have to enable it from the backend. So always remember when you get a post error, make sure that you resolve it on the backend side. It is not the fault of the front end here. So I'll go to the backend code and I'll use another module that is called post. So this is the backend terminal here. I'll install npm install and I can save post. So now that this is installed, this is yet another middleware that we'll introduce in the index.js. So firstly we'll import it. So const post equal to require post, and then we use app.use post, and post without any parameters is just default values. So now let's start the server again. Npm start. Listening on port 5000. So this started. And now if I send this request again, we get a status 200 response, and we also get some data saying file path. Okay, so this is good, and we also get the output hello world. That's nice. So this means that the route is working perfectly and the front end is working perfectly as well. Now we need to display this output on the front end as well. So what we'll do is we'll extract the data out of this. So output.data will now just be data, and I'll create a separate paragraph tag here to display the output, paragraph and output. So I'll create another use state hook for this. So const output, set output, use state, and it will be initialized with an empty string. So now once I get this output, I set it here, set output as data.output, and this is complete. Now we have one thing remaining to do. We didn't enclose it in a try catch. So I'll do it right now. Try catch console.log error.response. Now if I go ahead and test this, now we have this code from the previous one, so I'll go ahead and run it. I'll click submit, and here we get the response hello world, and hello world 2. If I do this again, I get hello world 2. So this is working perfectly. And now let's see if I do some error here, do we get a console log? Yes, we got a console log here, and you can see that we can get and display here whatever we get. So we get the error here. So now this means that our app that we set out to code is working perfectly, and we can now grab the
It's technically possible to achieve this goal using serverless functions in Next.js, but it would likely require additional setup and considerations. When using serverless functions in Next.js, the code execution happens in a separate environment, and the function is stateless, meaning it doesn't retain any state between invocations. Therefore, capturing stack frames and local/global variables during the execution of a script would require additional complexity compared to just executing the script. One possible approach to achieve this goal could be to use a combination of serverless functions in a separate external storage or database to capture and store the stack frames and variable values during script execution. Here's a high-level overview of the steps involved. Modify the code execution logic in the Next.js API root, serverless function, to capture the stack frames and variable values during script execution. You can use tools such as V8 or Node.js VM2 module to capture stack frames, and custom code to capture local and global variables at different points during script execution. Store the captured stack frames and variable values in an external storage or database. This could be a database such as MongoDB or a cloud-based storage service like AWS S3 or Google Cloud Storage. Return a response to the client with the captured stack frames and variable values in the form of an array of objects. Implement the logic on the client side to retrieve and process the returned stack frames and variable values to display or use them as needed. It's important to note that capturing stack frames and variable values during script execution can raise security concerns, as it involves storing potentially sensitive information. Proper security measures should be implemented to protect the captured data and ensure that it's only accessible to authorized users. This approach would likely require additional development effort, and it may have performance implications due to the need to store and retrieve data during script execution. It's important to carefully assess the requirements and constraints of your specific use case to determine the best approach for capturing stack frames and variable values while executing a script in a Next.js serverless function.
I think that this thing from ChatGPT doesn't work. I'm probably gonna have to read the documentation and this stuff. I think I'm gonna do this off stream. It's annoying. My headphone is annoying me as well. So I think I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna try to implement this until today. So I think first what I'm gonna try to do is just incorporate this on the side of the canvas. Then send the code to the WebSocket that I already have here. I'm just gonna create another route. And then from that, once it sends the code, it's gonna emit the event that is gonna trigger the data. It's gonna send the data. So send, then execute the script. The executes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put the logic of this thing here. So that instead of, I'm gonna have to change the logic of this file so that instead of executing the function that it has here, I pass the function as an argument and then I execute here. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna try to implement this all today. So hopefully tomorrow I'll have the code editor and the canvas. Then after that, I think that those are the main things that I have to implement in the beginning. And then after is just optimizing everything. Like the graph, changing the use drag thing, which is gonna be, yeah. The rest is just iterating, but it's gonna be very hard to make everything better. I might have to implement other libraries as well. I think I'm gonna have to think about whether or not it's worth it to implement first on the Fiber one that I already have, and only then go to build the Pix.js version, or to build the Pix.js first. I think I'm probably gonna build the Pix.js version first, because I think the 3.js is not gonna be usable. But yeah, I still have to think about, given the updates for Buildspace, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I think depending on how far I can get today, maybe it's possible. Hey, send thing. Do you wanna ask some questions or something? I'm stopping here now. There's a delay, so I'm gonna wait. And if not, then I'm just gonna go off. Yeah, okay, guess not. So I'll probably come back tomorrow and continue to do this thing. So see you then.